contact, and I tried figuring out what it was, but
Yeah.
I know it's all,
Cause the ramp's underneath the boat the other day.
yeah, it's been like that for a month.
Yeah.
Is that the one down here? Over here?
Yeah, right by,
Yeah,
right
okay,
now.
that's what.
All right, I have got 5:06, call the meeting to order today, Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Roll call, we have Selectman Eric Eaton, Mackenzie Jewett, Kevin Buck, myself, Jamie Thurlow, Town Manager Jesse Dunbar, and soon to be down here is Town Clerk Sarah Abbott. And Howdy will not make tonight's meeting.
A motion to excuse Howdy Goodwin from this meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to excuse Howdy from tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Adoption of agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change? All right, approval of minutes. We have the minutes from January 20th.
Motion to approve the minutes from January 20th, 26.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from January 20th, 2026. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah, actually, maybe I should, I think you missed that one, didn't you?
I actually was at that one, wasn't I?
Was it? I thought it said you missed it.
She was
No,
absent.
no,
Oh, no, okay, wrong meeting,
Yeah,
sorry,
wrong meeting,
okay.
yeah.
I just looked at it quickly. Never mind.
We'll wait for the warrants until later, so we'll go into regular business. First thing we have is the FY 27 budget prep for the school.
Well, I'll start on the one pager, and I'll start with the review of
That's what I was looking at.
funds that are coming in to support the
That's where I
budget,
saw that.
and I have some good news. First,
like-
we'll start with carryover. We'll be utilizing $396,735 for this year's budget, saving $70,000 for next year. State subsidy, on Thursday, we've got our preliminary numbers, and we'll be receiving, we had in this budget that you all have, we had put in tentatively $430,000. We're receiving
We wish, yeah, we all
$500,000. Well, I was hoping, but $150,000 more is quite a bit of a difference. And the way that plays out to town appropriation is it brings us from that 12% increase that we had to a 9.3 increase of $54.01 per 100,000. So that was a big relief in terms of, as Nancy and I were looking at, all of our schools, not all of them, but each school received a little bit more, except for the high school. But that's a really good number in terms of what it's looking like. So, Jamie?
I'll take it from here. So just a reminder that state subsidy is based on our special education percentages and whatnot, and we receive that approximately like 2 years behind where we actually are with students. So hopefully what that helps to show is that like the need has been continuing to grow over time, and that's why we are continuing to receive an increase in state subsidy, and that's a pretty hefty increase for us. So as we make our way down through the rest of this budget fact sheet, we've highlighted in there just like what the proposed budget is for this year under each cost center. There's the difference in cost, and then there's the percentage included, and then there's kind of the highlights from that cost center in terms of like what's driving the budget in that area. So to start with, underneath regular instruction, if you take a look at that right now, the difference there is $304,292. There's a 15.11% increase. We're looking at right now, there is the teacher salary and benefits increase. The average increase this year for teacher salaries is 8.3. We're at the end of the negotiation cycle, and so we start that again. This is the third year of the contract that was negotiated 3 years ago, and so we will start. We're at this spring. We'll restart kind of that process student data, one of the areas that we see that there really does need to be some support and intervention increase is to math, the area of math in particular. And we're noticing that like we tend to be able to move our students from the lowest percentile and move them kind of up through. And then as we reach the higher end of where students are achieving, we can get them to kind of a high average area, moving them into like the highest percentile. Students sort of stay stagnant there. And in having this conversation last year, I was made aware that Allison Putnam, our music teacher, who has 40 students in band right now, is the only music teacher in the district that is not a full-time music teacher. And she was doing the best that she could, but she did not have any time in her actual schedule because she's teaching full-time to provide income services. And so we've increased, what we're proposing here is moving the music position to 100%, which increases her from an 80% position to a 100% position. And then adding a position that would be a 50% gifted and talented position, and then a 50% interventionist position, in particular for the area of math at this point, to be able to help support students who need that opportunity to be challenged a little bit more. The way that we're structured right now, our middle school math teachers teach 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, and they have to differentiate. It's just basic teaching practice that you have to differentiate for students who might be a little bit below that or a little bit above their grade level. But then on top of that, if we have any students who qualify or are ready for geometry, algebra, or pre-algebra, that also falls on the middle school math teachers, which gives them like 8 classes to teach in a day, and that doesn't even fit hourly into their schedule. So it's a huge lift for those teachers. And then this year, the other part of that is the teaching supplies. We asked teachers, we had some teachers that were still like pre-COVID at $40 per student, and some teachers last year had gone up to $60 per student, and this year the administrative team talked, and we were asking teachers to put in $75 per student with the understanding that we will not send out a list to parents at the beginning of the school year asking them to send school supplies, that will cover what we need for every child. In terms of special education, again, you see some of the, any questions, sorry, any questions there? Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody heard what Mike said about the dollar amount. That was, you said it was 9% now, correct? Just so that,
9%.
yep, okay, yep.
So special education, obviously teacher salaries and benefits in there. There's some support staff, obviously, that fall within that category of special education as well. The support staff percentage increase this year through their agreement is 6.3%. We also have in there the addition of 1 special education teacher with the understanding that we would reduce the number of ed techs by 1 at this point. The reason for this is, we have an increasingly, we have a population of students that is increasing every year, and that is something that, from what I'm hearing, talking with consultants and whatnot, that's not just in Tremont, that's across the state, that's across the nation that's happening, with really specific needs that they have. And most special education teachers are not trained with that set of skills the same way that we are seeing that we need them to be. So we're hoping to be able to find somebody who has a more specific set of skills. The other part of that is that Child Development Services, which is the organization that through the state that has typically served children birth through 5 prior to coming into kindergarten. We've known for the last year or 2 that they are dissolving, and that the school system would be expected to pick up those children's, their special education services. We already have our 4-year-olds in the building, so next year we will join what's considered cohort 3, where we will next year start servicing our 4-year-olds who require any special education services. At this point this year, CDS, Child Development Services, has been doing that, but next year we will pick up the 4-year-olds, and then the following year we will pick up the 3-year-olds. And that's part of what the state is requiring of all schools, is that we hold 3 and 4-year-olds important to, we're doing this thinking that like, okay, if we add a teacher, they have a different skill set, and just different experience perhaps in support staff, and then we would decrease by one ed tech. I think it's really important to just say that like our ed tech needs are driven by students who show up, and this year we had 5 students with IEPs show up before school started. So that's why we have a reserve, is if we see that we need that last minute, we have a reserve there. And then health insurance increases, and then special education summer school. I don't think our amount for summer school went up a ton, but it's approximately 50,000 that Tremont contributes to the overall district-wide summer school program. I think that's where every school is that right, Nancy, this year. And under other instruction, again, there's additional funds for summer school under other instruction. There were some stipend increases based on the fact that our stipends hadn't been updated in a while, and that there were some percentage increases that were shifted.
And they go along with the contract, so they're married to that.
Yeah, so those increases are in line with the contract as well. Any questions so far? I'm sitting a lot. but-
Yeah, are the new younger kids that you're going to be dealing with, do they need special transportation? Are they gonna be able to get on regular routes, or is that something that adds to it too?
3-year-olds cannot ride school buses.
So how do they?
So that is part of what we are working to figure out. So we
Okay.
won't, next year, we won't be serving them, but there's also some funding that we're supposed to be getting, and Mike can probably speak more to this, but there's funding that right now, we're in the process of, we've just submitted a whole bunch of information to the state. And part of that is kind of a pre-planning process. They're supposed to come and do an assessment of our school, collect what all of our needs are, and then we're supposed to get front-loaded some funds to help us with that, and part of that will have to be, figuring out transportation, if we need additional vans, do we need specific things for seating for it, which we would, even things like staffing to be able to go run the van, go pick them up.
Can you bring the kids to the school?
So it really is dependent, so that's a possibility. That doesn't mean that 3-year-olds will necessarily be at school in our building. It just means that we have to provide their special education services, so it could be that potentially that we're servicing them at their home and then somebody's going there. It could be that we're picking them up and bringing them to the
Wow.
school.
Holy
It
cow.
could be-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not something that like right now we could just ask our special education team to take on, because it's a full.
So you have to hire a whole other teacher for this?
That's, right now, that's what we have, an additional special education teacher in here with, is to try to help with this transition and the level of need that we're seeing for students coming in. So I think that's something that we're trying to work collectively to figure out. I'm gonna say this delicately, but the way that we're structured makes it tricky right now, because every single elementary school is figuring this out separately. So we also have there's also certification that staff have to have in order to be able to serve children as young as 3. And so, I think right now in our district, there's only one person in special education that takes that certification. So staff will have to be certified, then we have to figure out all of these other components. And so running programs in every single elementary school right now, while I love that, it does add a layer of complexity and probably cost and inefficiency that makes sense to me. Student and staff support, again, there's just typical things that you see there. Our portion of the AOS assessment, the laptop leasing agreement that we sign every year, those things fall underneath that. I don't know if Mike or Nancy, if there's anything that either of you want to say about any of the system administration or anything along those lines.
Just that increase is a little bit higher because we're purchasing new budgeting software for the district that we have to, because sometimes is discontinued, but it's time to switch it up.
As far as school administration from my office, salaries and benefits are an increase there. For transportation, it's the same kind of thing. We've had a little bit of an uptick in bus repairs. And I was just made aware that we need to make sure that we are actually ordering our buses this year. As it stands right now in our building, some of you came in and took a tour, and I really appreciate that. We have one bathroom right now that serves any students who require toilet training with an adult or sometimes two adults. And so we only have one of those, and that is off from the gym. So like our youngest students have to go all the way to that end of the building to be toileted with an adult. And so what our hope is that if we can get the approval for this to go through with the fire marshal's office, that, and here, that my office currently, which is connected by a doorway to special education, to the K-4 special education classroom, would become an additional classroom space, and that my office abuts a bathroom, and that at the end of that bathroom is a handicap accessible bathroom. We would build a wall there, put a door in so that that one stall or little bathroom room then would have two entrances that could become an additional private bathroom for students. In the past, we've had to use the staff room a little bit for that, and that becomes tricky too, to have kids in and out of the staff bathroom, and the staff bathroom isn't available for staff at all. So my office would move, and we are looking at what is part of what used to be the library is now a second grade classroom, and it's a really big room. And so we would take a portion of that room, build a wall, divide that up so that I have a smaller office space, and that we have a separate conference room then as well connected to that, which would be very helpful, because as it stands now, the conference room is also my office, so that becomes kind of tricky. And then we have in there architectural fees, with the hope of being able to begin to re-engage with an architectural firm, to be able to move forward a building project, because I think that we're all kind of in agreement at this point that like something does have to happen in the building. How we go about that and whatnot, I think we can figure out that we've got to do something with the building itself. And then the food services and whatnot, there's no difference there. I think the totals that are on here right now, are different because Mike has, I think, some figures perhaps. For,
The budget is the same.
So
It's the
then,
town appropriation.
oh, excuse me, you're absolutely right, sorry. So the overall total budget proposal for, the 26-27 school year is $6,011,165. And that with taking into account the increase in state subsidy. Mike, do you have any? That, I don't know if you have the exact budget. So the budget to budget is the same, the percentage would go from 12.55 to 9.3, and the
5401.
per 100,000, it would go down to $54.01.
Thank you.
I don't know, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I just wanted to touch on the gifted and talented and whatever position, because you might think if you're not a person who will maybe don't have kids in school or have that, but like that, oh, well, you know, that's not as significant, but it's just super impactful to students as they move into high school and like what options are available to them, and just like the positive, you know, like whether they're having a positive experience, they're getting noise out of school and they're being well behaved, like, so I just want to emphasize that it really is like incredibly impactful to individual students and their trajectory.
I have a question for my mother. Did you ever get a chance to look into how much was set aside for Harriman before versus how much was spent?
The budget was set aside in different years. It was for space needs,
Yes.
but not specifically. It didn't say on the thing that it was Harriman. The only one that said Harriman was, one year had, sorry.
I knew we were looking for a total of what had been spent to date, like basically, to Harriman,
It was
yeah.
83,000.
83,000, okay. Yep.
Just over.
Yep.
And what are some of that other space needs that got used for,
Mhm.
you know, these various room rejiggers or whatever that we've
Yep.
done?
We have applied for, I do wanna put it out there, that like, we have applied for whatever grant funding we can get. So obviously, we're working with the state for pre-K stuff to try to get whatever they're willing to give us. I think it was around, I'd have to go back and double check, but I think it was around 150,000 total that we got in pre-K grants, between 150 and 160,000 that got in pre-K grants, and that's what paid for, a lot of the portable. So I just wanna put it out there that like, we are looking for any other source we can. I've recently been connected with Green Schools, which is an organization, a nonprofit out of California, that, may help with funding if a school is looking, it has some needs or is looking to renovate or build. If you're willing to look at things being more green, which, why not, that'd be awesome. Then there may be funding that they help with. Tanya Prentice has several different connections that she's shared with us, and then actually, when I brought that up to Pembroke Macon today, she mentioned, do you know that there is a Green Schools person that works with the DOE? And I said no, so she sent me some information to be able to look into connecting with somebody here as well, to see whether there are possible funding sources that might be able to be out there. And we did submit an application last August to the Department of Education, for the
Renovation for, I don't know.
It was
School building.
the school, like the kind of rehabbing of the school project. And while we haven't received any funds for that, out of, I think it was 99 schools that submitted applications, we were 33rd on the list in terms of need in the state of Maine, so.
I have a couple questions. I was probably behind one school board meeting because we had a meeting the same night, so we didn't go. But the three of us were at a meeting a while back, and I thought, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when we left that meeting, the Harriman component of this had been taken out. I felt like we had an agreement. Jamie even suggested a special town meeting going forward. What happened there?
So, I can speak is that we, like, and I talked to Jamie earlier, said, just to say, like, we do want you guys to think like we just were blowing up, whatever. We have got so many letters from teachers about wanting us to move more quickly on this and wanting us to have the thing. I think maybe Jen said there was one signed by 7 or 8 teachers, like people, they're cornering us into why. So I think that's part of what this is about. We're feeling,
Did the teachers understand though that a special town meeting was an option? It wasn't that we flat out said no, it was sort of paused?
I didn't speak to them, we received it.
I did speak to, like, the original letter that came in. I had spoken to that staff member, and I think it's just the frustration I think that they're feeling is like, we're watching a lot of other schools where that's getting approved, and I think the other part of it is that those budgets get approved before ours do. So the concern there is that like, some of those budgets, will get approved, and then that gets folded into the budget that you see now. And by the time we go to present ours, those funds are already solidified. So I think the frustration sometimes is around the fact that like, those budgets get passed, it goes in here, and then when we present our budget, the concern is that like, that then gets turned away, and they don't want things to, then we have to look at cutting things that directly impact Tremont students. And the concern is just that like, there are other projects that are moving forward. Mount Desert has a project that's moving forward, the high school has a project that's moving forward, Bar Harbor has a project. And again, the need has been there for 10 years, so I think that's, right. So yes, we have had that conversation. I think it's just wanting to make sure mostly that like, it's really clearly understood that we don't have the ability, like, before too long, we're gonna have to start questioning whether or not we can continue to serve all the students in Tremont well enough in our own building. So, I think that's where that,
Because I felt like we sort of had an agreement. Eric, you weren't there, but the three of
Yeah,
us.
no,
And
I
then
did too.
this came about, and I was like, oh, I missed something. My other question is, Nancy said that you've already spent 83,000 with Harriman, right? What did you get? Do you have a sketch? Do you have a drawing? Do
We
you have a?
we have multiple, yep, there's several, layouts that they gave us as a proposal.
They haven't seen
people-
any of those, but like we were talking about this for a long time and nobody's put.
I'm happy to, I don't have those things with me here tonight, but I do have several of those things, that I could share with you folks for sure. So they did present us with several different options in terms of layouts and whatnot. And I think like the way it's in here right now is not necessarily Harriman, it's in there as an architect.
Sure.
And so they walked us through a process of regular monthly meetings. I think the thing to consider with Harriman, like, is they did what they were asked to do. They did what they typically would do in a school, which their job is to consider, like, 30 years from now, what do you want the education of your students to look like? And so there's a longer process that is not nearly as concise, I think, as what some people would like it to have been, to try to get an understanding of, like, what does the community want the educational programming to look like, as well as, like, the layout of the building and what are the needs of the physical space. And I think that what we've heard loud and clear is that the concern is more like, let's make this as clear and concise as we possibly can moving forward. And, so I think that was a little bit of the frustration, is that they ran us through and led monthly meetings and community forums, and they had consultants that came in to do the soil testing and to do the assessment of the building. We have an evaluation that they did of the entire building that kind of tells us, like, what are the issues in the building right now, and if we were to make any changes, what are those things that then would immediately need to be brought up to code if we started to make any changes. So I do feel like that there was value to what they did. We didn't walk out of that situation though with, like, okay, next year we're ready to build a school. And so I do think that we could give more clear direction to somebody. Harriman, I think there's value in the work they've done because they know our school and they know this community, but,
And I think we can also utilize a lot of our local people that could help with, like, an evaluation of, the soil and the building. I think, you know, we have volunteers that probably are not waving their arms to do it, but with a little arm twisting, they would probably do it, and it would help save a lot of money moving forward for that stuff.
I don't know, I'd have to look into if there's certain people that, like, have to sign off on certain, I don't
Yeah.
know that process, and if people have to, and maybe they're.
If you knew an engineer local,
Right.
then they would be all set.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I know you guys have heard my pitch about, the fire department, which, that's a whole nother topic, but, we just signed a warrant for it, and I was looking at it, and I said, I gotta save this on top. So they started probably within 3 weeks. They had all kinds of options for us. We told them, I mean, very vague, what you need a list of stuff. It's not the same right now, but you need roughly 7 bays, we wanna update this, we wanna have a staffing section, we wanna have this, that, and the other. And they brought 5 or 6 options. Everybody mulled it over for a while, came to an agreement on one, swapped the building site around a little bit, shifted some buildings around, did an awesome job with it. I mean, phenomenal, in my opinion. And we just got the first bill for $5,800. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Like that, I think that if they're directed to do, if they're directed to do things maybe a little differently this time, it might help keep them, we wanna look at what we can afford, I guess, first, and then worry about the interiors and all that stuff after. Not the other way around. Maybe that would help some.
Yeah, and I thought part of the discussion was kind of seeing where this RSU vote goes also, because that may have some effect on what you do.
So I think the RSU vote would have an effect on how the project is ultimately paid for, but it wouldn't have any impact on what we would need in terms of, because who utilizes the school, what students are in the school, none of that would change, and the need wouldn't change. So, I think the board and others wouldn't see that as having any determination on, that shouldn't be as something that slows us down from moving
Okay.
Just,
Yeah,
it isn't gonna be, it'll be the same numbers and same ages of kids, whatever, either
Okay.
way.
Yeah, well, I understand it's really tough. I mean, I don't know, I assume probably most of you saw the article they had in yesterday's Portland Sunday paper about education to students falling. They're predicting like a 15% drop in student populations in the next decade or something statewide, and it was really interesting because every county in the state has seen the student populations drop. And it had it by county, and there's some really I mean, not every school, but every county. So the overall trend was less students in the school. And I know you're picking up more. The Tremont numbers have stayed relatively close to the same for a long time, right?
We ended the school, yeah, we ended the school year at 122, and we have 133 students
Okay,
right
and
now.
now-
We've stayed pretty consistently right there over the last.
Does that count pre-K in that number now?
Yes, yep.
Okay, you didn't have those a year or two ago though, right? That's fairly new.
Well, we've had pre-K for 5 years now.
It's been that
5 or
long?
6 years, because we were
Okay.
over at Pematic for 3 years. We were over at Pematic for 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
I can't remember how many,
Yeah.
and then this is our 3rd year with them at
Okay.
Tremont. So
Yeah, I just was wondering if you take that out, what it did to the population.
It's
Is that-
stayed, honestly, it
Yeah.
can fluctuate up or down, I would say somewhere around 10, just because if you have a
Okay, but-
family or two that moves in and out, you
Yeah.
could have
Yeah,
6 to 10 kids
Yeah.
that go in and out, it depends on just those individual families, so it does tend to fluctuate, there's certain times of the year that the population
Yeah.
fluctuates, but I would say we've stayed anywhere between 125 and 135, for almost the last 10 years.
the other thing, going through the school tour with you and all that, the one thing that came really clear to me, and it's, you know, I don't know, I've done a lot of building and different stuff too, is you need a building envelope that's flexible inside somehow. You know, and I don't know if that makes a lot of difference on talking to these engineers or not, but to me, you know, I'm not that familiar with everything that goes on in the school, and I've heard you over the years explaining tons of changes to us, Andrea, that you've had to make in the school
Yeah.
for different needs and different purposes, and changing the shape and size and location of classrooms and all that. So, I mean, I really think going to another architect, you really got to kind of get a really good direction to point them in. And like Jamie said, this worked out pretty well. Like, you know, the wish list for the fire department was a lot. But anyway, they showed up with a package that presented this with some options. I really think before spending too much more money with architects, you really need to come up with a little narrower parameters you want them to work within. And that's, I mean, I think that's kind of what I got out of that meeting. That was going to be the attempt before you went out and started working with someone else. And I think I think the results will be a lot better doing that. And maybe that means sitting down with, you know, again, a time or two before you go call an architect back and say, look, this is what we need, this is where we see this going. You know, some kind of speculation on future, enrollment size. And again, Tremont doesn't seem to be getting the drops I was reading. That article is actually really interesting to read, because it brought up a lot of stuff I wasn't aware of. And again, I'm not an educator, and don't pretend to have the answers, but it's just looking at the information we're getting, you get a challenging spot, no doubt about it.
Yeah, the original process for that too was like we had 5 or 6 engineering firms that we sat down and met with as a committee and whatnot, and this was the one that we ended up selecting to move forward with. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you start from scratch there, looking at like I'm not really sure. That would be more of a conversation with a lot of the people than just myself to make that decision. But I mean, I'd be very interested, and I can't remember who told me the organization was that the fire department has worked with.
It's Headifine. I don't know if they do schools.
I don't know either.
They do?
if they
Okay.
In high school,
Yes.
Okay.
some.
From what I've seen so far, very impressed. That's,
Yeah.
Also, I read that you guys are forming a new building committee. Is that coming up soon?
It's in
Is that on an upcoming agenda or
It's on the
something?
agenda for tomorrow's meeting.
What happened to the old building committee?
That one we just paused because of, like, we still could reinvigorate that one. I think it's just kind of felt like, it might be helpful to take a look at who's at the table and to.
I think that, yeah, the desire, well, some of you were at the meeting right before we talked about this, but was the desire to have a more focused committee of, you know, make sure it's like people who have relevant expertise, people who really believe in, like, want the project to move forward, you know, and having a less sprawling committee, because it's so hard in a sprawling committee to find. I mean, that was one of the challenges was like even finding a time to get people to meet. So
Sure, yeah.
having a much more tighter, like, people at the table need to be able to have time to meet, have some expertise to bring, and be, you know, into doing it. Does that make sense?
And the point of that committee is to figure out your wish list or figure out where you wanna go, like, is that the
I
point
think
of
we
that?
have a lot of that stuff already determined through the work that we've done in Perriman. I think some of that could be potentially whittled down because part of that was kind of like, it like was a wish list to
Sure,
some extent.
sure.
There were some of them that are, some things that were kind of like, these are the must-haves, we would need these things, and then these are some things that would be lovely to have that are maybe not necessary. So I think a lot of that work exists and could be, you know, brought back out from what we, the work that we did with Harriman, through the sessions that we worked on and in different, just in different sessions with them, I guess that was part of the work, that was part of the point of what we were doing, was determining like, what direction we want the programming to go, what are we hoping for 20, 30 years from now, what is education potentially gonna look like, we have no real idea, but, and then like, what are the must-haves, and the things that would be nice to have.
And like regulatory requirements.
Right.
Eliza had something, I think.
It was mainly what Jessica
Oh, okay.
mentioned about forming a new committee. Yeah, but at the last meeting, 2 weeks ago, we did sort of touch, like what you guys are saying, it was sort of touched on, that like,
Yep.
we need to kind of come up with a focused plan and a focused committee and like, you know,
I feel like this
ball rolling.
committee would hold the reins on
Yeah.
whatever architectural or engineering firm we're working with to kind of like keep that focus, you know, happening.
And do you think, I'm just thinking ideas here, do you think it might be beneficial to have a hammer and nails building committee? Like a few people that are more after the building and the site and the, and then the, like a school committee who's looking for, this is what we need inside of our rooms. Cause I know myself or Roger or somebody like that is gonna be like, okay, that's your thing, like we don't have anything to say about that, but when it comes to the, you know, the hammer and nails part, like. what's-
Subcommittees are.
Yeah, well, no, it's, if you had like, you know, and that way you wouldn't have to try to all group at the same time, or, that's just an idea. That's-
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have Scott Watson
I was just gonna say.
play a larger role in
Mhm.
that process, as well, with his experience, working with, the harbor and Mount Desert and then potentially Tremont.
Yeah, so Hedifine, you said did the high school?
They did,
They did some work.
project, it wasn't Harriman did the building part
Mhm.
that they did, but it was, I believe it was either the window and walls one, or the paving, I'm thinking it was the paving they did, but I'd have to look.
Okay.
We have work.
So I'm just looking at the numbers and just trying to think of how it would be a happy medium. Definitely the increase of state funding helps a ton. I mean, that number looks decent now, for sure. The 85.5 for the architect, we'll just call it, instead of Harriman, just in case you go somewhere else with it. What if, I mean, I think that's, if you've only spent 83 to date from them, I think another 85 that's a pretty high, you know, pretty high number. That's just an idea, but what if you put 50 towards an architect, and then you took that 35.5 and keep it in there, set it aside, I don't know how this works, I don't know if I can answer this, put it aside for not, it can't be spent on improvements, but it has to be spent on the building, in the future. So that's a head start on
building planning or something.
yeah, whether it's more architect fees when it comes down the road, or whether it's, savings for blueprints, actual physical blueprints, you know, that way it's not, I just don't wanna see, another 85,000 come back
After
with,
readjustment or whatever.
yeah.
The other thing there is the 855 is a quote from Harriman based on like what the next phase of the work would have
Oh, okay,
been.
I got you.
So that wasn't like an arbitrary number that
Yep.
we came up with for that, that was like, if we re-engage with Harriman based on what we've already done, going into the next phase of the work that we would be doing with them, that was their estimate for like the next step in work with them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's defined like within the outline of like, here's where we've gotten to, here's what was come next in our process with them, and that's what that cost.
Do you have like a vague or any like bullet point description of what that means, your memory of what that is? It's kind
Not
of-
right off the top of my head right here, but
Yeah.
I could pull that
Just
out.
maybe it's helpful for.
Is there a way for us to put in fifty
I have,
escrow the other?
Nancy has it. So it was 35,000 for the building design, site design was 16.5. And concept design was 35, and at most 85,000.
Okay.
Isn't,
Is there?
they haven't done a lot of that already? I mean,
Yeah,
you
I still don't
know,
understand what we're getting for
I mean, you know, the site, is- you know, a lot of that I would,
Yeah.
These would be, you know, the finished product, so I think what they
Okay.
produced was, you know, just, site plans for if you wanted a school here, this size, this is what it would be, if you wanted something smaller, it would be this. They didn't, like, get down to, you know, building the walls, yeah, it wasn't blueprints. or anything.
I agree, I think you should call Hedifine.
Yeah, and I,
I mean, they made modifications at a meeting we had within a week, and we had a plan that made a lot of sense and encapsulated everything we had. And I mean, it's a drawing, you know, that's very well defined, all the dimensions and everything. I mean, it's not a finished product, but it's something realistic you can look at and picture and see what they're doing. And I haven't seen anything either, so I mean, I don't really know, but.
they had some rough, at the end of it, I think they gave us some rough numbers on what it would be, but it was, I think it was a different direction too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just not the way I think we're used to doing things.
Yeah.
It was more looking at, you know, what does the town think that we need? And I think every town is different. I think this town, you need to tell, you know, you need to make the decision, this is what we need, and then present it to people and try to sell it, not, we don't really need to.
Yeah, don't spend a lot of
We don't
money-
need a lot of input until, you know, you know what you need, and a lot of
Yeah.
people don't, you know, just regular taxpayers don't understand what you need, they're not gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that, and, if you get something together and say, hey, this is a proposal, we're looking at whatever, the, you know, $8-10 million, then bring it to them and then sell them, and then
Yeah,
have
yeah.
community forums, and then,
Don't have them wasting a lot of time seeing if they can save the old part.
yeah. No, I think we already said we could start off where it was added on, and that's about it.
And the concept design part of this is, you know, probably an area where, you know, where you're saying, you know, you can focus on the building design, the site design, the concept design. Sounds like we've kind of done some of that already, and there might be some savings there.
Yeah. Yes, Jesse, sorry.
Did the school establish the school planning reserve and just put the full 85.5 in that reserve, and the school board is authorized to spend?
You would need to, establish the reserve at meeting.
Same thing.
Like we did with the other ones.
Yeah.
But, I think it is a capital thing, so I think we could do, you know, could establish a reserve for that purpose. But, you would, so say, you would be able to access, you want to be able to access some of it to begin with.
Would that be problematic though, because our, I mean, this is no discussion for a year, but because most of the reserves are for unanticipated, but if we're setting it up just for that, then we don't have to worry about
got 50 grand to spend, so hustle it up. You will get 85,000 here.
This is your ceiling.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they probably would say, okay, see you later. You guys? Eric, consider where.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable if we put in, I feel like our people as in our teachers and, you know, like, they wanna see us have something in the budget that shows we're moving forward. Like, it was 50,000, but, you know, it's not like we're not wedded to Sigma Pyramid or whatever, but I think people need for us to show that we're moving forward something, right? I
Yep.
think that's what that's the, I know you're saying other
Yeah.
screws on you, but that's the screws that we feel
Yeah.
on us.
And I totally understand that, and I think that, I think, you know, the hesitation, I believe, is just because, we're the ones that are in charge of everybody's pocketbook in town, and we're trying to make sure that, that stuff is spent wisely, and I have nothing at all against Aaron, but I think that, you know, they had some parts that were great with it, but I just, after seeing, you know, like, things that we've seen for a ton less money, it's hard to, I wanna see you know, I would love to see someone come in and draw up everything you have for $50,000 and say the rest of it goes towards the building. That's what I was trying to say later, like, use that somewhere else where you can, but,
You guys get something you want.
Yeah.
Something.
yeah. And even, I mean, I don't think, Kevin, you've done more of this probably than me, but I don't think it would hurt anything either to get a second opinion. I mean, I think that if you called someone like this head of fine and just had them meet, and if they meet and you don't like what they've got to offer and you're out $5,000 at this point, it's, I mean, that is what it is, but it's, I would think that, you know, that's an option too.
I'm happy to, I would love to reach out to them more. I
Yeah.
feel that I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I see they were involved with the new, I just looked them up, the new headquarters for the park, you know.
I think are the architects for the new intern, that one?
No, the,
Headquarters on
Eagle Lake Road?
Yeah.
that.
Okay, okay.
But they did stuff in Trenton.
Or Cullen House, they were called.
Yeah.
Do you guys know approximately just square footage, what you would like in addition to the square footage that you have now? Because that's a great way to
Yes.
approach these guys to get a decent estimate. Just say, hey, I need 5 classrooms. They're gonna go right across the back in the playground, 30 feet out all the way down. That's what we need. We need that square footage. And then you say to these guys, say, take a look at my school, and I need to add 3,000 square feet. That's what I need. You figure out where it's gonna go. I think it should go here, but let's focus on that. Focusing on rebuilding I personally think rebuilding the whole back side of it is a lot to chew off at once, just because you lose all that space, and then you don't have anywhere for your kids, and like, how bad is it? I don't know, I didn't look at it, but everyone
It's pretty bad.
says it's pretty easy, yeah.
It's not, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't look at it, but, you know, it's easy to say, tear everything down, but
I agree with Eric. I mean, maybe you need to go to them and say, this is what we want. Like,
I need 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Figure out where
Yeah.
we can put it so we can redo that old section in pieces. You know, maybe add on the end and the back. I know sprinkler systems, yeah, whatever. If that's gonna have to be added in, that's added in. Okay, let's get over that expense. I know it's a big expense, but if we're gonna do it, that's what we have to do. And it doesn't have to be all tucked up in the ceilings and stuff. They can run pipes right down the wall, right in the corner, just on the ceilings, like they have in a lot of old buildings.
I'm not an architect, but I think there is concern about, you know, trying to hang on to the old part of it. That might end up being more expensive in the long run.
It will.
Yeah, I think
You're
it's-
not,
Guaranteed.
you're never gonna keep that, if you went in there, the windows are, all the windows are gone, so there's 150,000 just in windows back there. The concrete settled all the pieces, the base underneath is no good, it's going up through the walls, you're gonna chase your tail with that.
Either way,
but-
you can't cut all that down without having.
Oh, I
room
agree,
for
yeah, you have to, And I will defend and say that they did give a list of, these are our needs. I just think it should be directed a little different, because I think there were a lot of wish list needs, and I think we saw this time that it was expensive to throw out too many wish list things. And
Right.
I think that you need to have a very targeted, we need to have, I need 4 classrooms, I need to have offices, and what do you need for offices? Well, I need 10 offices for this, and this.
And I need 3 bathrooms.
And you don't need any dimensions, you give that to them.
You
That's
tell
pretty
them,
much
not
what we
them
did
tell
to-
you
yeah.
guys.
And we did that with the fire department, they didn't give them any real dimensions, and they just went with it, they know their specs, they know what they have to work with, and then when they come back, you just start modifying stuff, and moving stuff, and at least then it shows like instant progress.
Right. But the only way to do it is to keep that section while you build something
Yes,
in
oh, I agree,
addition,
yeah.
so you can house all the students while you tear down the back section. So it's multiple stages, not just one project.
Kevin and I were looking at it, and the only part that you could save the gym and the section that was added on when we were in school, and then the old building is gone, but you could maybe add on, put a building in the back of it, and then tie it together at some point after. It would be a multi-step process, but there's chances.
Art wing is all newer as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I understand.
yeah.
They probably, I can't imagine there's not somewhere they've got a square foot per student kind of formula that someone's come up with.
Oh, yeah, they-
And I mean,
they have.
and they would give you, a real good size, plan on expansion, plan on whatever, but honestly, like I said earlier, I think you need to work on getting your building envelope size and what you think you're gonna need, and then then figure out how to make it work inside and make it flexible. But, again, it's like Eric was saying, I think if you could point them in a direction, say, this is what we need, we're expecting this many students for this many years and some flexibility, what can you do?
Yeah.
I think at that early time is we were still unsure of what the potential RSU would look like. So I think some of the design ideas that it was more sort of concept. So that sort of played into not having a specific design for the school.
Yeah, and just they have a process that they go through to try to
Yeah.
determine again, so that 30 years from now, you're not rehashing the same thing, or
Yeah.
20 years from now, just,
Yeah.
having to redo things. So again, I think that they did what they were asked to do. I think we just found that we needed to shift gears and go in a different direction, so. And maybe with them, maybe not with them, but it was worth taking a look and seeing what else is out there.
Jesse, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that the engineers for the public safety building are head of fine, but also working with the design group collaborative. So they've done, just looking at their website, they've done Holton Junior and Senior High School, Performing Arts Center, several Hudson University projects, York Middle School, Wells Elementary School. So they've done a couple schools.
What do you guys think for a number? What is everybody thinking on that, besides from what direction?
What are they asking for now? 80 what?
85.
55.
And the 33, just to clear, I know we've been over this, but that's just, the 33 for building projects was to move that bathroom, make some space, and that's,
In the
I mean,
office.
Kevin was saying that, that's the number one thing. We need to stop putting Band-Aids on stuff.
Yeah.
It's expensive, I mean, yeah, 30, 40, 50 grand a whack, then you're just, yeah, I agree. We need to move, there's no question, but.
Yeah, don't even look at redoing it, honestly. It will cost you more money and you're not gonna be happy with the result.
Yeah.
I've played that game, and it's just,
I will
Yeah, I think we're on a total agreement on that one.
Yeah.
I will definitely reach out to both of these companies, and I'll also pull in, Scott Watson wasn't working with us at the time that we started on this either, and he's been wonderful in many ways, so being able to engage him and helping with this process as well, because I am not a contractor or an engineer.
fixed position, or, yep.
You've got all different size classrooms in there that you're using for different uses. I mean, you could go into a classroom the size works, and actually get a measurement on how big that classroom is, and it'd give you a ballpark, right?
Yeah, we have that from,
Yeah, okay.
there's an old report that we have as
Yeah.
well that has been shared from, what's the company's name, Sealander, that, I don't know when that was, 15 years ago or something
Yeah.
like that, quite a while ago at least, that, there you go. That came in and did just an evaluation of all of our schools and whatnot, and gave us projects to work through over a 5 or 10 year period, and we've done all of those things, but, I say that, now some of our rooms are very different in size than they were
Yeah.
when that was originally done. So for some of our classrooms, like there is just kind of a scale in terms of like how much square footage you want per 4-year-old,
Yeah.
or how much square
That's how it
footage you
is.
want per 14-year-old, like there is a kind of a standard, there's some guidance around that can be put out there, that would be helpful.
Yeah, anytime you hire someone, the more you get them focused, the better results you're gonna get, is what I keep thinking, no matter what it is. If you can aim them specifically at a target rather than say, do something,
Right.
everyone's gonna be happy with the results, so, I mean,
And
that's,
the initial committee was supposed to be really broad too. The idea was we want to pull in community members, we want to pull in parents, we want teachers, we want, anybody that we can get who can come in and give us feedback from Tremont. And so I think that's what we got, was a really broad perspective. And again, what we're talking about now is kind of narrowing the committee, to be much more focused.
Yeah, Liza?
I think, on top of what you're saying, I feel like our mandate also with that period, not initial, but one of many iterations of the building committee project with Harriman, was to get stakeholders involved and on board, and that was kind of the idea behind the forums. And that's a way to approach it that's pretty different from what we're now sort of talking about doing. And so I feel like I see the value of both, of just charging forward and the idea of being, let's get everybody involved, let's see what grandparents and people think. And in the end, I think that's how we got a lot of things that now feel fanciful and they give us the product of people.
Now it feels like maybe that was the wrong
Exactly.
approach, but at the time, I think we were thinking ultimately the community has to pay for this,
Totally.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So we want to get them involved, we want to hear what people think, we want to hear what people want, and in retrospect, it does look
Yeah,
like
it feels
whimsical or something like that, but I mean, that was what was happening at that time, and no.
And I think it works in some towns. I think every town's different, that's all. It might work in Bar Harbor, great. And I think here it seems more like people want to know, what are you asking for? How many millions do you want? And you have to sell it to them then. You just rip off the Band-Aid and let it, yeah.
well, I think it's a lot easier if you get something that's more concrete. Having a drawing or a floor plan or, a picture of an exterior elevation or something. This is what you're looking for. The reason we're doing this is because these are the needs we have, and this will work for this and this part, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you're gonna get support with. And, I mean, from me, from anyone that doesn't know, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. It's like, what are we talking about? I know you need a new school. I'm 100% on board with that. That school's a wreck. I mean, the back part of it really is. I mean, it's.
Yes.
No. I mean, it's just well past its lifespan, and it does need some upgrades. Apparently I'm on record.
Yeah.
But anyway, it needs to be something that you can actually get wrap your head around, and it's really hard when it's all vague.
Any suggestions then? Anybody?
I love the idea of putting a reserve in there, where it's there, it's available, but it's not get thrown at one architect or something like that. It gets doled out a little more concisely, or, precisely, I guess.
And then maybe it would also help to keep the select board of the town updated on, after there was a good size, we've used 35, 40,000, but we feel like we're getting somewhere. Maybe that would help, a little progress report along the way so that everybody feels like it's being spent wisely.
And while we're at it, thank you for getting us on the school newsletter. I do read that every time it comes out, and I do appreciate it. It's nice to see what's going on, because I had no idea before.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I do hope that, like, I know that this doesn't always feel great, but I do hope that you feel pride. That's all I have to say. There's so much good happening
Yeah.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It was really good to see it.
Yeah.
So did the Blue Cross Blue Shield, did they iron out all of their issues, or are we paying more for health insurance that we can't use? That's my real question.
Eric tends to cut around the corners, so
It
it
says
says
health insurance increase, so why are we increasing when we're getting screwed on the other end?
We're anticipating 10% in the rates, which we always put in the budget. We're hoping that it obviously comes in lower, but we won't know a maximum until like the end of March. And then the first part of April is when they nail down our specific percentage, because we're based on claims and they throw out big ones and
Yeah.
they,
So, yes.
they negotiate, if actually they should be, have started maybe by now, negotiating with the MEA Benefits Trust. And that's who the MEA, the Maine Educators Association, is a separate thing from the actual union, you know, it's, and they negotiate each year.
So yes, you're paying more, Eric, if
Yeah.
that's what it is.
But we
You're-
still have worse care, we still have worse than we did a year ago, right? Did they,
Is it because of?
You
Northern
teacher?
Lights?
Northern Lights.
yeah, the Northern Lights.
But that's been
They've resolved that.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was my biggest concern, because if all the teachers around here can't go to Ellsworth
Yeah.
Right.
or Bangor, they have to go to Augusta, like, that's a little ridiculous.
They reached a new agreement.
They
Yeah.
And they charging us more,
We
probably?
don't know yet.
Oh, okay, that's still,
That's
That's our estimate.
that's the other.
That's the same thing every year though, right? Like we don't get those numbers
Same
till like
thing.
days before
Yeah.
town meeting, right? That's nothing new.
alright. Well, there's one thing I can't cut then, so. What else? I mean.
Mackenzie, any ideas from you on numbers?
I understand where they're coming from, I get it, it's just a hard pill to swallow, and I know you guys are focused on your budget alone, which is what you're supposed to be doing, but we've got everybody else's budget in town to also consider, and we have the fire department wanting a new fire station, and we have this, and we have like all of these things, so it's hard for me, I can't say us, it's hard for me, if there's a small space we can cut, I don't know. Really to do.
Mainly because it's been $500,000 roughly in the last 4 years, year number 4, of a $500,000 increase.
We did drop it 3.25% just with the state subsidy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you guys are getting flack from your teachers and stuff like that. We get flack from everybody else in town, and I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people are upset about the school budget, which is nothing new. Everybody gripes and moans and groans about the school budget, but I think each year it gets harder and harder to pass. And I think some may not, I'm not saying yours won't, but some aren't getting passed, so.
It has been happening in the
It
state.
has, yeah, and there's some angry people in town. So, I don't know.
I do like the idea of the reserve, I will
Sure.
admit, and that does give it a little, hopefully it gets spent a little bit to a time and feels like if it doesn't get used now, then it can stay in there and it can go for, it can stay in there for however long it needs to. It can stay in there for 5 years if you need
But
it
you
to.
have to front load it if you're
Yeah, so, but you've got to.
so you're not helping out the current,
No,
But it will help in the future.
Yeah.
The thing it will, so if you only spend, say you use a different company and you spend 45,000 out of that, you have 40 sitting there. then that could go towards, you know, some, whatever, engineering for the land later. It could go for, it's
I
their
think it
use
would help,
later.
because currently the way it works, if they don't spend the 85,
Yeah,
they spend 60, then the 25 just rolls into carryover.
exactly, that's the
Unless
way
you
it
can
is.
comfort it.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
comfort some.
Two, right, but the reserve would be clearer, that if they
Yes.
spend 60, but they wanted to spend, you know, 35 next year.
Yep.
They'd be able to say, well, we have 25 in the reserve, we need to put 10
Yeah.
more in the reserve.
Yeah,
It'd just be,
it'd be really transparent for
Right.
everybody, and if we ever get any flack about it, then we can say, hey, how much is in the reserve, and there you go, that would be,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a lot cleaner way to do it,
Yeah.
too. I like that.
If there's not too much of a pain, is it? No, I mean, it has to be on, no, but it has to be done at town meeting, but
that was
other than
it.
that. Yeah.
I got a chance. Yeah, we just have, we have to have an article, we can get that.
Yeah, okay.
We do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse does it all the time, just FYI, just, you know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, look at the bucket, and that's
Yeah,
where
I
I
know.
need that.
So, reserve, if everybody agrees that that would be a good idea, how much do you think about putting in there? Are we thinking the full amount? Are you thinking a reduced amount? Or,
Of the 85?
of the 85, yes. You're at, right now it's at, what'd they say, 9.3, so, that's 54 per 100,000, so we've been saying an average house now is, I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's 500,000, so $250, basically more per average household for the school currently.
Just
as
the
is.
school,
Just the,
though.
oh, I know, just the
That's-
school.
Yeah, that's,
And then ambulance, fire department,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, right, if it was just the school, I love that, like,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But, again, we have to, yeah, we have a lot hanging over our heads, so. I don't know, you guys pick one next.
Kevin's always the wise man.
I was gonna
with
say
numbers.
80 would be, I mean, I think that's a lot, but
Yeah, and I just feel like it's gonna be a lot less headaches for us
yeah.
if they have it in the reserve, because when we catch crap about it, we can make a couple phone calls and, find out how much is in there and say, no,
Yeah.
actually, there's only been 30,000 spent, and it will.
Well, and it automatically rolls over with having
Yeah,
it
exactly.
specifically
Yeah.
encumber the money.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's just, it's set there and it's set aside for that, and it's, again, it's very transparent.
Yep,
I think that's a really good way to do that.
no,
No, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
don't
why I
know.
said it's a lot still.
It, yeah.
Yeah, it's either 85 or none, really.
Yeah.
To really make a difference.
Yeah.
Because 100,
I don't know
Yeah.
why, I
Those-
have no idea where to even.
It just dropped 150. I'm a lot softer on that than I felt.
Okay,
I mean, that's me personally, it's,
And we did a reserve account with the fire department, well, it's for, with Jesse,
Public safety
emergency
building.
services, a public safety building, and we just keep throwing into it when we can, and it, next thing you know, it's got $450,000 in it, and that's why I love it when we create stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's just for a directed use.
yeah, and it's not, you don't get that having to encumber things and pass it on, it's
Yeah.
just, it's automatically there. You know, and and again, it's really easy to verify and see where it went, and it's just,
Yeah, we have other, like, they have special ed.
Yeah.
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 do you think 85,500 is gonna get them what they want?
Oh,
Or are we gonna
I
have this
think-
conversation,
Yeah.
are you guys gonna have this conversation next year?
Yeah, okay. You're,
You'll be
you know
right
in a
there.
way, I wouldn't like it in a month.
No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
is
I
that gonna
agree.
get
It's-
to the end of the?
I understand what you mean, there's 83,000 spent and there's not much to show for it.
Right,
So-
and now we're gonna throw another 85.
But I think everybody has a much more directed approach now, and
That's the change.
let's
That's the-
keep our eye on it too, and just make sure that it stays directed, and it's,
It's like,
you know, it doesn't get off off course, and,
But are we gonna be talking about another $85,000 next year? I guess.
no, we can't.
This is the end.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
like,
this is that.
yeah, I would say that, I think that could be part of our thing, is, like, this is it, we need to see some,
We need a product.
we need something to sell at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's gonna be about 100, close to 170,000 pounds, I tell you.
Yeah, what is also?
Yeah.
That was the two.
Yes.
Sure. That goes with you? Okay.
Fire away.
So, all right,
So
deliberations
51.5
here.
for the,
We have a
we have a proposal.
A counter proposal?
From the.
We have a proposal too. So, wait, yeah.
Ours was to do 51.5 to go into reserve, so that was the building from the Harriman, it was the building and then it was the site work.
Mhm.
And then without the concept design work,
Plus your projects.
plus the projects
Yeah.
that you have, so.
Yeah, those are really not, we
Those are
got.
Those are
I
projects,
missed
those are already
something there. Could you
accounted for, right?
The projects are already, yeah.
Like the moving the walls, the
Yeah, yeah,
bathroom,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
some
That's
other
in,
things.
that's the 33. It's
Okay.
in
Yeah,
that
that's
same
okay.
line.
Yeah, okay.
So that line would go down to 84.5.
Yeah, and our proposal was, I know, shouldn't say it now, but I'll be truthful. It's the full 85.5, but it needs to be in a reserve, and don't come knocking for any more. This is, like, we need to have a product to sell to voters.
But you're upfronting that,
Yes,
you're funding it this year.
Yes.
next year.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the reserve is full, but
We'll take it.
we need to have, we
We
need.
had a better deal.
I know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't do any good if they take 50 and then you turn around and come back for 40 more. Like, this is it, like, we need something to sell to voters at the end of this.
Believe me,
And if,
I would love to sell something to voters.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I would love that, so.
and if they spend 85,000 and draw you some pictures of the playground,
Well, they can't.
then don't
Yeah, don't
come
come back.
knocking for more, basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what you get.
Committee members, so.
Yeah,
But that 30, something that you need for improvements now is part of that 85, correct?
no,
No,
that's
that's
totally
not.
separate.
No, no, it's totally
Yeah.
No, that's a big part of what continues to drive the budget every year is we have to do some sort of project every year to meet our, over the last few years to meet.
And in many cases, they're like legal mandated, right? They're not like something you could choose. Almost always.
Does that sound reasonable though? Do you think that's?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's.
So what would we do for, I was gonna say, we're gonna need a modified amount for this, and also,
Yeah.
we're gonna wanna say to create a reserve. We need a
Two
motion.
two
on that,
different
too.
motions probably.
Yeah, two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse, you want two separate motions, one for the reserve,
Motion to recommend they.
recommend that they put 85.5, to, what do you wanna call it?
I just said school planning reserve.
Okay. Yeah,
I guess that's up to school, if they don't call it.
Yeah.
It might be, people would, we might
Yeah.
have to name it a certain way.
Yeah, that's fine for motion.
support the building.
The amount for your motion,
Yep.
is in my thing,
Yep.
is $5,034,430.
That's with the $150,000 change? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So 5,034,430.
yeah.
Okay. some sort of a school building reserve.
Where did you put that number? I don't see it.
I got it right here. No, I just wrote it down.
On this one, okay. I
This
thought I
is
was looking at your
modified.
notes on your motion.
This is, town appropriation, it was that, and now it's this 534. Yeah, it's minus 150 of that, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Funded.
513? No, 503, is it?
Yep.
503,
Yeah, 503, 430, yeah.
Okay.
And when will this be funded, roughly? When do we? July, okay. Just so we're clear on when it would be. Yep. Yep, okay.
Twenty-six, 27.
Does that sound good to everybody? You're all?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, this actually, this feels like we're like moving something forward
Yep.
and we are desperate, so,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Jessica, you can tell your teachers that things are moving, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did your job, you like things are moving,
Very,
yeah.
very much. I also just want to say thank you guys for all the effort that you put into coming to other meetings throughout the year this year, so thank you so much for showing up for us the way you do.
It helps doing that a lot, actually, you know, for those of us who hadn't had a kid in school for a decade or two. You know,
And if there's anybody that has any questions at any point, please don't hesitate, like, I'm happy to walk somebody through a school, if, you know, to show them if they're concerned or need somebody after school hours to help them understand why, what needs were actually basic, so if any of you guys want to come over, if you weren't able to, I'm happy to bring Eric, you or Abby or anybody else in the building to kind of show them what's going on as well, so direct people my way, I'm happy to let them know what's going on.
Yep. And I think that's a good thing, once you get to a plan and you say, this is our plan, people say, oh, that's a lot of money. Say, okay, that's when you feed them spaghetti dinner in the gym and take tours, and that's, I think that's the time when
Yeah, I think
it's,
you're right, people feel like they need to pay attention.
yep.
I move to request the town manager to include $5,034,430. I believe that's right now, if my writing's right. As a Tremont School Fund appropriation in the fiscal year 27 budget.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to request the town manager to include $5,034,430 as the Tremont School Fund appropriation in the FY 27 budget. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Now we need a second motion
Yeah.
for the,
I make a motion to set up a reserve account for building plan design, whatever the name ends up being, to set aside the $85,500 in this proposed school budget.
second. It's been moved and seconded to recommend that there be a reserve account set up for school building, school building design or school
Yeah.
building addition, in the amount of or to fund it with $85,500. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. All right, next we have, actually, we should probably do our warrants. Let's backtrack on the warrants. Okay, our warrant list, we have warrant 76 for $3,102.27. Warrant 77 for $21,124.47. Warrant 78 for $267,148.45. Warrant 79 for $22,705.08. And warrant 80 for $45,358.72.
I motion to approve warrant 76 through 80.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve warrant 76 through 80. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, next we have a return check policy. I'm sure you guys have read this, but I'll let Jesse explain while we're doing this.
Yeah, so this year we've had an increasing number of return checks come back to the town, for various things, taxes, motor vehicle. Normally, we might get like one a year. This year we've had, like six so far.
No.
More.
Oh, God. I would say at least a dozen.
Okay.
Like, there's a lot.
Huh.
So-
And we're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So we did not have a policy on what to do in the event that we get them. The staff has, done what they anticipated or determined was the correct process, which does pretty much line up with what this, policy lays out. But I felt it'd be a good idea to have a policy in place specifying there's a certain way to handle it based on what it was paying for, as far as taxes, liens, and motor vehicle registrations. So this just lays out a process for the staff to follow. Should we get the check.
You guys still charge an extra fee for people to use their cars, right?
Yeah.
That's still,
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's.
state still charges.
yeah. I'll make a motion to adopt and sign the return check policy as proposed.
Second.
And moved and seconded to adopt and sign the return check policy as proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Next, we have a town report memoriam. Jesse has had the idea to have a dedication in there for John Larson. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I like
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Says
Sarah.
staff.
Oh, staff.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah.
thank you.
She passed last time, it was like, wait.
Yeah. I think, yeah, John did a lot for our town, and so did Dave Ashworth, and
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah,
Yeah.
very good picks this year.
Yep. I make a motion to have a memoriam for John Larson in the 2025 annual town report.
So, been moved and seconded to have a memoriam for John Larson in the 2025 annual town report. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, regional collaboration.
Just a few updates for you there from the last League of Towns meeting. Road salt, the League of Towns is currently working on a combined road salt bid request for next winter. Trying to see if we can get a salt supplier to give all the towns in the league the same price per ton. We participate in the state salt bid, as you are probably aware. It's a little strange in as far as bids go, because we all participate. But unlike the fuel bid that you're familiar with in school, those suppliers give that same price per gallon to everybody in the bid. The state salt bid, for whatever reason, is still a different price per ton, depending on which town it is. So, and sometimes it works out that we pay less per ton than Southwest Harbor, and they're technically closer to the supplier than we are. I don't know how they come up with it.
We're nicer.
Yeah, we're.
Here's the thing. But the hope is that the league can get the suppliers to give a price, the same price for everybody. There's a vast difference between what Ellsworth and Bar Harbor pay per ton compared to what the rest of the towns pay. So the idea behind it is the price would be similar to Bar Harbor and Ellsworth's price.
Is there any way to put up salt? I know after we talked about there being such a shortage this year, is there, I wonder, are we allowed to store that outdoors? I don't think, no. I'm just trying to think of where else we could, because they've had trouble keeping it ahead, and,
Yeah, we're currently backed up.
Yeah.
I think he said we're waiting for 2 deliveries.
Yeah.
We did get one after we.
Oh, we
found
did?
out- Yeah, we got
Wow,
one
that's
last
good.
week,
Yep.
after we found out Searsport was empty, but.
Yep.
We're still, there was supposed to be 1 or 2 last week that didn't come.
Yep. Just trying to think of how we could stack it or mix it in with the sand or something.
I mean,
I
we
was talking to
probably,
Gus.
normally the sand shed is full, half full
Yeah.
or more for the summer, so yes, we could
Could you put more in there?
put more in.
Could start doing
The
brine,
anticipation.
you know, we're surrounded by it.
Yeah, yeah, I know, put salt water on the roofs, yeah. And then when that freezes, it'll be sheet ice. But when Gus and I were just talking randomly
Yeah.
about it there a week or so ago when that bad storm was, and we were thinking, throwing ideas, if, I know they mix it some like Gots does when they bring down for
Yeah.
the sand. It's too bad we couldn't mix the salt in the, like in the summertime,
Yeah.
when everybody has time, it's nice weather, and fill that thing right to the brim in there, and then whatever, just some way to get the supply ahead, because
Yeah.
I'm sure if we have another winter like this has been so far, then there's gonna be a shortage again.
Yep, we can look at that. Website, League of Towns is looking into a website so the public has a dedicated place to go for updates and reports regarding League of Towns activities. And spring workshop, the league is currently working on planning the spring elected officials workshop to be held sometime in April, as it was last year.
All right, perfect. Next is your town manager's report.
In the last couple weeks, I've continued FY '27 budget work. I had a Zoom meeting with state officials regarding the proposed deer hunt. I watched a webinar of the town clerk regarding RSU validation voting. I attended a public safety building Zoom call. I posted the notice for the deer hunt public hearing. Had a meeting with Climate to Thrive regarding our current grant and an upcoming grant. I attended the League of Towns meeting, worked on meeting prep, and had a meeting with the superintendent involved in an interesting case where one of the cemeteries in town was left to school district 13, Central School District.
In what year was it? You
In
said?
1875.
Yeah, in
like,
1870.
Am I supposed to be doing
And
this?
they,
No.
Yeah, that's on your plate
Yeah.
now.
the people in charge of it have come forward and said, you know, this belongs to the town, does the town wanna, so we're working through that process. Office,
From 1875,
Yeah, from
yeah.
18, yeah, okay.
office staff, the clerk attended the RSU webinar I mentioned, she attended the AOS public, budget meeting at the high school, worked on BMV voter updates, BMV reports, and monthly reports. The Public Works, picked up truck 5 from Quirk in Bangor, picked up truck 2 from Collins. Obviously plowing and sanding, sander repair on truck 4 and 5, received salt delivery, town garage cleanup, removed some snowbank at the end of McKinley Lane, replaced truck 4 plow steel. And Harbor Master worked on wharf cleanup, trash removal, working with DOT regarding the ferry terminal project, and worked with contractors on quotes for potential upcoming grant. And in the next few weeks, I will continue my FY '27 budget.
All right, thank you, Jesse. Suggestions for the next meeting? Date of the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 at 5 PM at the town office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, 5 PM at the town office. Is there any discussion? I thought our public hearing was before that. It's not?
Yes,
on-
it's not.
No, but it's on the 17th.
Yep.
I thought it was before that.
Nope, it's on the 17th.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, next we have an executive session entitled Personnel Matters.
Again. Speaking good, okay.
I make a motion to request the town manager for the select board to find that public discussion of these personnel matters could reasonably be expected to cause damage to the employee's reputation and/or to violate the employee's right to privacy, and therefore to go into executive session to discuss the employment, appointment, assignment, duties, promotion, demotion, compensation, evaluation, disciplining, resignation, and/or dismissal of an individual, a group of public officials, appointees, or employees as permitted by 1 MRSA 405.608.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session entitled Personnel Matters as read by Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Sorry, my eyes kind of glazed over halfway through there.
Sorry, Kevin, you get that every time.
Yeah, you're so good at it.
Yes.